Hi, my name's Misha and I'm here with my friend and colleague George Michaelopoulos, and this is Hegemonix. And like Ed Sullivan used to say, we've got a really big show for you tonight. We're going to talk about that's my best Ed Sullivan, which is not very good. Um,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about the Islamic invasion, basically, of the West, both here and more acutely in Europe, and some of the fallout and consequences of that.
Uh,
Now, just for people who are watching this who don't know the background of either George or myself, George is Greek, and you know that the Greeks have a long history of negative experience with what I'm going to refer to as the Ummah here. That's what they call themselves. That's their name for church,
yeah,
for
yeah, right.
The Islamic community.
Mhm.
Uh, Russians, and I'm Russian on my mother's side, um, we have some experience with them, but um, it's more successful in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
We occupied parts of what are now Iran, and um, and they tend to fear the Russians for the most
Hmm.
part, with good reason. But that's a historical accident. The the Greeks were just as ferocious when it comes to fighting as the Russians. It's just historically the Greek Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, peaked
Hmm.
long before the Russian Empire, and so that's kind of where we ended up with that. And so right now, I ran some numbers, George. I'm going to run over them, real
Sure.
quick. And um, there are about 1.8 billion Muslims. They'll say 2 billion. They'll say 2 billion, but I can't account for that other 200 million.
Hmm. Hmm.
1.8 billion, 1.5 are Sunni, 300 million are Shiite. In the United States, it's 3.45 million out of 340 million people here,
Hmm.
which is like 1% or so.
Right.
Uh, but Dearborn, Michigan is 54% Muslim.
Yep.
Hamtramck, Michigan is 51% Muslim.
Yes.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is 15% Muslim.
I didn't know that.
They're blocking roads there doing the salat, their prayer
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
Uh, and we'll get to that towards the end of the program again. But they will have when they pray, they line up in rows.
Right.
You would in combat,
Hmm.
and just the act of praying in public is an assertion of sovereignty control over that area, that locality, even that country.
Hmm.
And when something falls to Islam in their um, theology, it can never be rightfully taken back by anybody else. It's
Right.
always what Spain is actually
Spain
considered by
is the
the Muslim
exception,
territory. Yeah,
and it caused a existential crisis
yeah,
in the Ummah. I mean, it took the better part of 800 years for the Iberians. It was also the Portuguese to take
hmm
back Al Andalus,
yeah,
but they did take it back, and
yes,
they acquired some serious Jones from that, which they brought over to the Western Hemisphere and conquered the great empires, the great indigenous empires here. You know, the Aztec, the Maya, the Inca, and
yeah. There's
yeah.
when Christopher Columbus was leaving in order to go to the New World, he saw not only ships of Muslims being deported, because in 1492 it was the same year
Hmm.
when the
Hmm.
final victory came, but also
Hmm.
ships full of Jews being deported.
Yeah.
uh, so now in New York City, they have 1 million Muslims out of a total population of 8.4 million.
Okay.
Um, Britain is a much more, I mean, you only got the majority thing where they're really up in the population, up in Michigan, really.
Mhm.
to a lesser extent, Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
uh, New
Yeah, but
York.
they don't have to have a majority, you know?
No, they don't.
Once they hit 5%, things start changing.
Yeah, they're very bold, and
Mhm.
they're bolder than they would be if the West was still if the West was still Christian.
Right,
And
right.
it used to be in the Middle Ages that Christians would never allow Muslims on Christian territory.
That's right.
There was the way that they were looked at was kind of like a cross between a just totally foreign religion and a terrible heresy or apostasy. Because they
Mhm.
did have a doctrine, unlike the Jews, they did have a doctrine as far as Christ is concerned. It's just they
Yeah,
didn't believe in his divinity and all that,
right.
so they could consider them heretics. Um, but they wouldn't allow them. They'd kill them if they were on Christian territory. Um, so in the UK, it's a little bit different. It's 3.8 million out of 69 million.
Uh-huh.
And Tower Hamlets, I'm not sure where that is in England. I've never been over there. Has the highest local share of around 40%.
Really?
Blackburn, 35%. Newham, 35%. Luton, 33%. Redbridge, 31%. Birmingham, 30%.
No, you did your
And
homework.
yeah, yeah.
They're
And
depressed. Getting black-pilled. No, go ahead.
no, well, we'll get to what's going to happen. There's
Yeah,
going to be a,
yeah,
a Reconquista. There,
yeah.
um,
Have you run the numbers
you
for
can see it.
France?
Do I now?
Have you run the
I got,
numbers for France?
yeah, I got numbers for France. London was 1 million out of 9 million, so it's 11%.
Uh-huh.
So what they're doing in England is they're going to and it makes sense. They're going to the larger cities, and what they do is, and they do the same thing here. According to Islam, according to Sharia, they're allowed 4 wives.
Right,
What they'll do is 3 of them are going to end up being registered with the state as single mothers,
right.
and they're going to um,
Welfare.
get supported by
Mhm,
welfare, and
mhm.
they're going to be 3 houses
Uh-huh.
for one for each of them. There's going to be another house with the husband and his favorite wife,
Right.
and so they're going to reproduce at a much higher rate
Mhm,
than the surrounding, and they like all the children in the street in front of so like in front of that little neighborhood, all those children are going to be his children
mhm.
playing.
Right, right.
That's a
And
odd
and
phenomenon.
and he's probably not gonna have a job. He's probably gonna be with all the other Muslim men sitting at the local mosque. It may be a strip mall or whatever, and just hearing, you know, doctrines or sermons because the wives are bringing in the income
Yeah,
from welfare. So you don't really
yeah,
have to work to support
yeah.
them. They're supporting
Well,
you and the rest of the family.
yeah. It's insane, completely
Mhm.
insane. France, 6.8 million out of 6.7 million out of 68 million. So it's about 10% in France. I
Mm.
mean, as a whole, that's
As a
not
whole.
one city that's
Right, right, yeah, yeah.
and
Well,
some of the larger French cities, Paris being one, they're no-go zones
yep.
where the police have just let it go.
Mhm.
The Muslims there and the local councils sure as enforce Sharia. To it, I mean, they're not gonna behead people, I don't think, but
Not yet,
not yet. But
not yet.
I've
Mm,
seen
mhm.
where they've been beating people,
Mhm,
for this or that offense.
mhm.
So Germany, 4.6 million out of 84 million. The the one that actually should be this is one of the reasons that I thought that France would be the first one to pop as far as the Civil War is concerned,
Mhm.
because their population is total throughout the country is about 10% Muslim.
Mhm.
and they're doing all these shenanigans over there with the French.
Mhm.
And the French, as we discussed in one of our previous programs,
Mhm.
when they sense that there's no real sovereign authority in their presence, they go wild and they get violent.
Mhm.
And so that's why one reason I think we really need to keep an eye on France for all this, because they're getting it from all sides. They've got the economic
Right.
problems from the
Right.
sanctions, and they've got this problem.
Right. Right. You know, and and also, I think it was Rod Dreher who was speaking, but it could have been somebody else.
Yeah.
Who's living in Europe right now. He's living in Budapest, Hungary. But there's, or maybe it was Steve Turley. Um, ev- Ever since they rebuilt Notre Dame Cathedral, there's been an uptick, a significant uptick in church attendance among the indigenous French.
Hmm.
And somebody asked him why. And I'm paraphrasing, it was something along the lines of, we're looking for sustenance and some encouragement for what's coming down the pike, something along those lines. In other words, they're arming themselves.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, obviously, this is not happening in England, where they just elected a woman as Archbishop of Canterbury, and
Yeah, I
the
saw that.
Church of England is dying, is dying.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
not, I'm not going to say that Saxon fury doesn't exist. It's just that the 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 more traditional countries, i.e., Orthodox, i.e., Catholic countries, still have reserves of grace that the Protestant nations do not. I'm
I
just
can see that. Yeah.
speculating here.
I think of Poland,
But
yeah, yeah,
along the lines of
especially,
you
yeah, or
saying that it's
Hungary.
going to pop in France, yeah, I think it's going to pop in France first. And will it spread to
Yeah.
Germany? Will it spread to England? It will under racial lines, but not denominational, or I should say, not confessional, unless
Mm.
they too just turn and massively desert their Protestant national churches and either take up Orthodoxy, which would be the ideal, or Catholicism. Although I will say this, that even though Catholicism is growing both in America and in Europe, um, this new pope seems to be a milder sort of Frankie. And,
Yeah.
I don't know how he's going to be able to be the Pope Urban II to call a new crusade. It just doesn't seem like he's got it in him. But that's a story for another day. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that all that I agree with
I didn't mean to
110%.
cut you.
Um, and Pope Leo,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
anybody should be looking for leadership, and I don't think they are really. I think a lot of these people, Jack
Yeah.
Posobiec and Bannon and other people
Uh-huh.
that are we think of being on the Catholic right, I don't think they really take the
Uh-huh.
contemporary papacy that seriously, and they go to churches
Uh-huh.
that are much more conservative, where to the extent it's
Right.
allowed, inside, and
Yeah.
they just make believe that it's that click their heels and there's no place like home. There's no place like home.
Yeah.
Basically,
They're,
and
yeah.
wait it out. Yeah.
They're still living in a pre-Vatican II mindset, and that this has just been a 60-year nightmare that eventually is going to
Yeah.
be, you know, we're
Dealt
we're,
with.
we're all
Yeah.
going to wake up, and the next pope is going to come out with a banner of of the Crusades in one hand and a sword in the other. I mean, that's where
Yeah.
I think a lot of these people live, and a lot of the traditional Catholics. And I know we really didn't want to talk about it, but I did want to put out, not only do they go to traditional Latin masses wherever it's allowed, as you said, but a lot of them
Uh-huh.
attend Byzantine Catholic parishes,
Yeah.
and they, in other words, they're uh, worshiping according to the liturgy of Saint John Chrysostom. Okay,
Hmm.
and so they would never step in a Novus Ordo mass,
Right.
just pretend that that the church is still the church of Leo the 13th and Pius the Ninth and Pius the 10th. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see.
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
to
I
get
mean,
our
that's
own act
that's
together.
we've got our own problems. That's true. Um,
Yeah.
but the yeah, I would say the rod is not in the head, but that's not necessarily true depending on how you look at it. I mean, we say the head of our church is Jesus Christ.
Right.
Um, but Constantinople claims first place among the hierarchs. And traditionally that's, since the schism with Rome, that's been the case. Um,
Hmm.
but Constantinople, I hadn't really intended to. We'll get back on this other thing
Yeah.
here in a minute. It's important. This
We'll
is
spend another episode on that. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's get back to Europe and
But
America and the Muzzies.
yeah, but really it ties in a way because Turkey is a Muslim country, and
Yeah.
Bartholomew is basically an agent of the State Department, and that explains a lot. If you look at the rest of the senior hierarchs of the in the different local churches, they sing a much different tune when it comes to issues. They're not going to be out there um, asserting open borders and
Right.
uh, any of this,
And the Skittles
social
agenda.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. Um, now, which brings us, I don't think we need to go into Italy and Spain. They have lesser Muslim populations, and the only thing I'll remark about that is Georgia Maloney has been in the press
Hmm.
recently talking about Islam is absolutely incompatible with Western civilization and morals
Hmm.
and values and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad she's sounding that horn. Um, Now, a lot of people will criticize Russia because there are 15 million Muslims in Russia out of a population of 145 million. Most of
Hmm.
them are in Tatarstan, Bashkortostan, the North Caucasus, where they have the Chechens and the Circassians, and the
Right.
Volgograd region, where Tatars and Bashkirs also are. But there are
Hmm.
1.5 million, evidently, in Moscow out of a population of 12.6. And in St. Petersburg, I think they're
Hmm.
200,000 out of 5.6 million. But it's much
Hmm.
more regimented, regulated over there, where it's more like a mosaic than a melting
Yeah.
pot. They have their regions, and then they have in the central,
Right.
well, in Moscow, not really in St. Petersburg. In Moscow, there are I think 4 mosques.
Well, here, here's the deal. 2016 and 2018, and it was night and day. 2016 still was. They were crawling out of the 90s, but 2018 there was construction going on everywhere in Moscow, just literally everywhere. And I
Mhm.
could tell that a lot of the workers, the construction people, men, were darker and probably Muslim, you would imagine. Um,
Mhm.
that's that's one thing. I mean, I did see their so-called cathedral mosque, which was built, which was just magnificent. I mean, it was not far from the
Yeah.
Armenian cathedral, by the way, which
Mhm.
also was stunningly beautiful and gigantic. Um, Here's the thing: when it comes to Islam, they respect uh, hierarchy. I'm going to be very careful how I say this. They respect strength, and they respect the Russians because they're masculine, and they're not on the, Skittles agenda. I mean, I know thanks to communism and forced atheism, abortion was rampant. Well, now it's not as rampant. The churches and the
Right.
state both are doing everything they can to alleviate the numbers of abortion, to take care of single mothers and foundlings and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the average Orthodox Christian there is perfect or pious or anything like that, but, but, but there is a foundational sense. It's it's like America was in the 50s, okay? I mean,
Mm.
and in the early 60s, even well into the 70s, you were proud to be an American, okay? If you were a normal American, if you're out, if you were,
Yeah.
e-
Yeah.
e- even those marching in the streets against Vietnam, they were not riding around in bicycles naked saying, "We're coming for your kids." Okay, we are now.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine what America was like then and what it was like to be an American man, to say the Pledge of Allegiance, to stand at attention for the flag, to put your heart over your chest or your hand over your heart and
And
when you're at the football game or baseball game. And that's kind of what's going on in Russia. Okay. Although they never really lost it. And so getting getting back, Muslims can respect that. Okay.
mm.
The Would they rather be on top and take the Ummah to from the North Pole to the South Pole and to the four corners of the earth? Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Okay. But they have no problem with living in a nation that is not insane. And
Yeah.
so the Europeans, well, they act insane. The women walk around in their eyes dressed like whores.
Yeah.
Therefore, they can be manhandled and assaulted.
Yeah.
Um, y- y- in in America, they see minorities acting with impunity. They
Yeah.
see gays on parade. It's one thing to live normal, closeted life, and it's quite another to be, insane. And we are insane.
Yeah. Paraded around in their jock
Therefore, we
straps
go
and all
back
that crap that they.
and, and so the Muslims say, "Hey, it's fair game. We're going to take over here. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Whether it's Germany, France, England, whatever."
It's like they smell blood in the water. it's That's kind of
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah, yeah,
They know that they
yeah.
can clean up if they really want to, because there's nobody to resist them.
Mm,
And that's the thing that concerns me
right.
about this, and that's why the reason I suggested we do this program is because it seems like I know Americans are not okay with all this. They're not okay with seeing the stuff
No.
about Hamtramck and Dearborn. They're not okay with seeing the
Hmm.
reports from Europe, whether it's the UK or France or anyplace else.
Hmm.
Um, our people, populace level or popular level, are not. Their people in Europe are not
Hmm.
either. It's the problem is their elites, for some reason,
Right.
not only do they not care, that's an understatement. They have brought these people in for a reason, and they are doing this for a reason. They
Yes.
think that these
Absolutely.
people are going
Absolutely.
to be easier to rule than
Hmm.
white Europeans who might drift to the right. Um,
Hmm.
and they don't. It's kind of like a damn the torpedoes thing, I think, with them. They
Hmm.
don't believe in religion,
Hmm.
and they think that they can do the same thing with Muslims that they did with the mainline churches, and gut it
Hmm.
out and kind of replace it with progressive ideas, notwithstanding the fact that there's no
Hmm.
evidence that I have seen that that works with Islam. um, they
Well,
I've
yeah,
heard here and there
yeah.
things, but nothing that. Yeah, the people in these places, either in America or in Europe, are not okay with all this, and they can see that this is a problem, that Islam is
No.
becoming a problem, especially in Europe. But the elites,
Mhm.
they've orchestrated this for a reason.
Yes, they did.
I don't think if they, I can't see what their point really, their ultimate point is, other than they're afraid and they had to do something. That may be it. They're
Well,
afraid and they had to do something and they wanted to import people that they thought would be easier to persuade to vote for
mm,
them.
but
Because in the end,
that's part of
just like everybody else does. So, you know,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. No, no, no. That's part of it. But I ran across this, and I put it on the blog a long time ago, when the
Mhm,
migration started in Europe in 2015, and they interviewed this American woman named Barbara Specter, and I'll I'll send you the link. It's still on
mhm,
YouTube, and she's a very well spoken, attractive, elderly Jewish woman who's living in in Sweden at the time,
mhm,
and she said that this was, and she said this unabashedly. Um,
mhm,
Europe is too homogeneous. We need to make it more inclusive and diverse, and Jews will be at the forefront of this program. She also said that we unfortunately will suffer because of it. Okay.
mm,
And I'm thinking, well, why not avoid the whole suffering thing in the first place? Because, there are places in
yeah,
France and Germany where if a Jew wears a kippah, he's dead, or or he's
yeah,
beaten nearly within an inch of his life. And and it's not the sons of Odin who are doing it. Okay.
right,
So,
yeah,
I don't have to draw you a picture.
yeah,
But
yeah,
so I got to thinking, well, why admit that, okay,
mhm,
to God and everybody? Because that's only going to increase hatred against Jewish people.
yeah,
Okay. Uh, and especially once this gets out, once your speech gets out, and then once that all these Muslims are coming in and raping women, and and killing people left and right, and taking over towns, um, and that goes back to the Kabbalah. I've been studying a lot of it, or esotericism, and
mhm,
there's this concept in the Kabbalah called Tikkun Olam, which means heal the world,
mm,
and you can only do it via a dialectical process. There is no good or evil.
mm,
There is no morality, but evil is allowed so that, like pornography, to destroy the family. Okay.
mhm,
And then, well, once the family is destroyed, what are you going to do that? Well, then they're going to come up with universal basic income or something like this. And so evil is
oh,
actively
push.
pursued
Mhm,
so that the the civilization, especially Christendom, the Christian civilization, is destroyed,
mm,
and then something better arises out of it. We saw this with Protestantism. Protestantism was a Judaized form of Catholicism.
mhm,
Uh, I don't know what you know about Martin Luther, but he was heavily influenced by local Jewish rabbis. Eventually, he turned against them.
right, yeah,
But 100 years earlier, there was Jan Hus, that Catholic priest from Moravia, and
mhm,
we know that he was burned at the stake. But he tried to jumpstart a reformation, and he got. But he had influence from Jewish publishers who, because of the printing press, published his tractates and spread, and
mhm,
this helped weaken the Spanish Empire, especially the Netherlands and all that. It's a little bit more complicated than that. Anyway, it was put down. The Catholic Church got 100 years of grace, and then Martin Luther came in and he jump started it, and and you had this Protestant Reformation, which the
Mhm.
Catholics like to call the Revolution, and that didn't work out. But out of that came the Renaissance, and out of
Yeah.
that came the Enlightenment, and out of
Yes.
that came republicanism. Um,
Mhm.
so there's always this Hegelian dialectic, and the the Kabbalah actively teaches it, and that explains to me why the elites in Europe, most of whom are not Jewish, by the way, um,
Mhm.
but they're esotericists, I think, um,
Mhm.
allow these Muslims to come in to mix things up.
Yeah, they got a well, I tend to look at it in broad, categories of, like, Christians, Muslims, liberals, and
Mhm.
really at the core of liberalism, there is a Jewish presence there. There's
Oh yeah, yeah,
no
yeah,
question about
yeah. Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it.
and then that's
Yeah.
basically what you were just recounting is,
Mhm.
um, that prior to the Enlightenment itself, there was a strong influence that
Mhm.
led to that.
Mhm.
Um, and that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. I
Right.
still, I guess I can understand that. I mean, obviously, I'll never accept it, but I could understand it.
Mhm.
Um, that they want to diminish the white population because that would make it easier to control, and the whole point is Jewish
Mhm.
supremacy.
Right,
Um,
exactly. I mean, for 1,000 years from the time of Constantine till Martin Luther, there was such a thing as Christendom,
yeah,
and it was incredibly stable,
mm,
and people were by and large happy. Oh, sure, there were plagues every now and then, and a few heresies
yeah,
like the Cathars and stuff like that, but it was incredibly stable. It's
right,
easier to divide and rule and to have after Martin Luther started the Reformation, then other reformations took off. Then there were the Anabaptists, and
yeah.
before you
Once
know it,
there's a break in the dam, it just
yeah,
yeah,
and then Martin Luther turned against them, and he had the German princes go after them and slaughter them, and
yeah,
the only reason that they survived is because a whole lot of them went into Russia, where Empress Catherine granted them safe harbor. You know,
yeah.
That's why
It,
there's a lot of Baptists in Russia, they're German descended. Um, but the point was, once that dam burst, there was no longer Christendom,
mm,
and
yeah,
then you could do things like usury and capitalism. I mean,
yeah,
the church did not allow usury.
right.
You know,
Yeah, that was the function of
yeah,
the Jews was to come in and
yeah,
to loan money, and then when they got too much power, they were kicked out of
right,
hundreds,
exactly,
hundreds of
yeah,
times. Yeah.
yeah,
And they will admit that. I've seen videos of them themselves saying that's what we did.
oh yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
how it
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
Um, but so Christendom,
Mhm.
if it's ever going to rise again, has a few enemies.
Yeah,
uh, Liberalism, especially
yeah.
with a strong Jewish presence at it, and then Islam as well.
Mhm.
Um, Now these, um, you know about the grooming? They're called grooming gangs, or they're rape gangs, is what they
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
And this goes back to, the '80s, apparently.
Mhm,
Rochdale, Rotherham,
mhm,
Telford, Pakistani rape gangs. It got publicized or became public in, 2013,
mhm.
but they just didn't do anything about it.
No,
It's,
no.
it became public and, as far as there's some reportage on it, um, and it's appalling to me and strange. And they had an actual official investigation, I think the end of last year, the beginning of this year, and but it was the government did as much as it could to suppress it, and
Right.
still to this day, they just don't.
Well,
Um,
you and I are of the same or of a similar generation. The worst thing that you could be called was a racist.
no,
That
that's
was
true.
a
Yeah,
that was a career ender.
yeah,
And if you're a politician, you didn't want to be called a racist. I mean, you
yeah,
saw what happened to Trent Lott when he praised Strom Thurmond.
yeah.
He was kicked out in 5 seconds. And
That's
so
true.
the police of Rochdale and in Rotherham, you know, we got to bury this. We got to bury this. We can't let Tommy Robinson and you know and John Bull know about this. Otherwise, they're going to rise up and do a massacre of these Muslims, and everybody will look down on us because we allowed it to happen. And that's that's coming to an end. But that was the predominant paradigm from
Mm.
the '80s onwards, if not earlier.
Yeah. It just the thing that amazes me about it, I understand the dynamic of not wanting to appear racist. What I can't wrap my head around is allowing young women or girls that are, around the
Mhm.
puberty age to be raped by guys from foreign countries. That
I I can't
on a
either.
large scale,
Yeah.
I, because if that, I mean, I can't imagine. I think there would be retribution if that
Oh yeah.
happened here, like in the red state South.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but England, I guess they're just so docile
Well,
that.
they're also not armed.
Well, that's true. That is true. Um, yes, that does make a lot of difference.
Yeah, and a lot of us are medicated.
Mm,
In America, there's an obesity epidemic.
mm,
I've been fighting it for several years now myself,
yeah, I'm in the
and
same boat, basically.
and it's easy to just kind of like, as long as you're not in imminent danger yourself,
Yeah,
and then we look down on uh, people who live in trailer parks. I don't, but as a
I know.
rule, the middle class does.
Culture.
And
Yeah,
so when we hear about a girl getting raped, we say, well, what'd you expect? She's probably dressed like a hottie or something like that.
that
Yeah,
is
I think
a
that's probably
big
what's going
part
on in
of it.
England. I don't know. I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
that I think is a big part of it. There are all lower class girls, and the class system is very strong
Hmm.
still in England. Um, so they had some other things, little things happen. One was the Manchester synagogue attack.
Hmm.
I didn't read a whole lot about that, but I think it was a Muslim attack on um, a Jewish institution there.
Sure. There you go.
No, I don't know whether. Do you know whether? I think there were like two people inside it,
I think
maybe
so too.
when the thing happened.
Hmm.
Um, but what that did actually is it actually just encouraged the Muslims to demonstrate more in the streets for.
Yeah.
It's very
Exactly.
strange. It's like a
Yeah.
bloodlust, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then they had the Southport murders,
Hmm.
which um it's very hazy around it.
Hmm.
There's a guy, Axel Rudakubana,
Oh yeah.
whose parents want
They said he was a Welsh youth, and you you
right.
look and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I'm
a
thinking, oh, it must be
Welsh
Tommy
Christian,
Jones wearing
yeah,
a tam o' shanter or something like that. No, that's Scottish, but I mean, it's
yeah,
no, it was, and what caused him to go ballistic like that? I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what caused that Carmelo Anthony to go ballistic and stab a guy in the heart, Austin Metcalf in the heart either. I mean, it was just, or Irina Zanutska, but
yeah.
whatever.
Well, he had ricin on him, and evidently that's a big thing with the terrorists, and he had an Al-Qaeda training manual.
There you go.
which helped him learn how to do this stuff.
Mhm.
Now, there's no record that he ever converted to Islam. Um, he's from Rwanda, and Rwanda is they practice some kind of Christianity down there. I'm not sure
I
what it
think
is.
so, yeah.
Um, but there was all this intrigue about that. Um, now, I think I know what happened, but I can't say, for sure. But if some guy is from Rwanda and he looks in the mirror and he sees himself as black in a
Mhm,
white country,
mhm.
who are my friends? Well, it's not the white people. And so I, I can see how that
Well, there's
would
the
go. But it feeds into the narrative, though. It's
yeah, well, ever since the 70s, we've been stoked at the government schools. I won't call them public schools, even though I was K through 12 public schools.
yeah,
In white guilt, white privilege,
right.
not nearly as bad then as now, and um, uh, many blacks have inculcated this idea of permanent resentment, which is justified. Okay.
Yes.
Not all. I mean, I watch guys on YouTube who are hilarious. I mean, like the Hodge twins and, Brandon Tatum and Officer Tatum and Black Conservative Patriot and the Carter family and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not universal by any means, but it doesn't have to be. If you have these angry white female urban liberals or awfuls, or affluent white female urban liberals, awfuls, te-
Awful.
te- teaching you that white people are responsible for everything wrong in the world. Well, you're going to believe it after a while. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of things people believe,
Well,
which
it's a backfire. I don't think they didn't even necessarily have to intend for blacks to be propagandized that
Mhm,
whites are white devils.
mhm.
The intention was to convince whites that whites are white devils
Yes.
and to vote Democrat.
Hmm.
But one of the unfortunate um, effects of that is that blacks, to a large, it's widespread. It's not total, but even in people that seem normal to us,
Hmm.
it's late.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say.
Um, I think that's a fair statement
Hmm.
because, like for example, my neighbor, very friendly. We do favors for each other, but he had a BLM
Hmm.
sign in his front yard,
Hmm.
and his wife was much more cautious around white people.
Hmm.
But now, if push comes to shove, which side is he going to be on?
Hmm.
You know, it's you
You
know,
know, I mean, there's latent anti-Semitism in a lot of Christian people. I mean, it's there. I understand it, and in Jews, there's latent hostility toward the goyim, toward Gentiles. I'm not an
yeah,
evolutionist, but I do believe in natural selection, and there is such a thing as kinship,
hmm
and ultimately we're tribal.
yeah,
Um, and it's just a a heuristic. You see somebody and you size them up, a stranger, and you size them up immediately. Okay,
right,
and you size them up. Well, does he resemble my people? And if he
hmm
does, you're okay. If he doesn't, well, you don't necessarily go up and bash him in the head, but you're more cautious about him.
right,
Around him. We do that. That's natural. That's
right,
not a horrible thing. And the classic example of that is taking a stick and throwing it on the ground, and then taking a snake and throwing it on the ground. You only have a split second to look at that stick and say it's not a stake. It's not a snake.
hmm
Okay, and if it's moving, then you're going to run the other way. You're not going to sit here and reason.
yeah,
It's just a way of looking at the world. That's all.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all.
So we also had this phenomenon of Muslims praying in public places, blocking traffic,
Hmm.
and evidently it's a way to claim territory. I think
Right.
we talked about that a little
Yeah,
bit.
we did.
Um, I just get the feeling that unless something happens, it's like cultural suicide. That
Hmm.
the uh, the liberals in this culture have had such an effect on the rest of the culture
Hmm.
that it's very difficult for even people who are on the right,
Hmm.
even some who are on the hard right,
Hmm.
to be able to offer a criticism and a solution that actually addresses the problem that can be popularized and put into practice
Hmm.
because the well's been poisoned
Yeah.
by the liberals to a
Yeah.
certain extent. Um, and so I don't know what's with. I'm not optimistic about Europe really at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Um, I think there could be some. I think there's going to be big conflagration. I don't know who's going to win, and I don't know that the elites are going to be on the right side of that conflagration.
Mm.
And so they may put down their own people in order to replace them with these other people.
Mhm.
Here, I'm a little bit more optimistic, at least in the short to medium term. The long term, I don't know still,
Yeah.
because we have more problems than just, there's Muslim immigration, then there's what we've been talking about, um, the black population that's been
Mhm.
whipped into a white out fervor against
Mm.
whites.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know that I mean, I think a lot of Mexicans and Latin people are emigrating, and it's a good start, but I don't know that they're going to get rid of 20 million people, uh, push them south of the border.
Well,
And the other
I
thing
just
is
heard
yeah, go ahead.
I just heard that so far 2.2 million have self-deported and or
Yeah,
deported and we're talking about foreign-born people, which includes
yeah,
illegals and legals and gotaways and who knows what else. So
yeah,
so we could be generous and say that by the end of this year, by the end of Trump's first year, maybe 3 million will have uh, returned. And
yeah,
e- and even if it's just 3 million a year, well, that's 12 million less.
yeah.
Okay.
That,
And
that's good.
so you know, here's the way I look at it. Can you imagine where we would be if Kamala Harris had won?
I don't even know whether it'd be alive, and I'd say the same thing
Mm.
if Hillary had been elected.
Yeah.
I think either one of them could have got us killed at the hands of Russia or China.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they're that crazy.
Yeah. But but as but assuming that nothing went to that, assuming that the Pentagon has some sane people still there or whatever who will take away the nuclear football from
Yeah,
jokerettes like that, the
yeah.
damage that Biden did to this country via illegal immigration and open borders and run and crime rampant through the streets, it was just immeasurable.
Oh yeah.
And I just don't see how Kamala would have reversed it. I just don't.
She would have done the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
they're trying to crash it. They're trying to crash the whole system.
Right.
And really, what you have, and I was thinking about this earlier today. This is a war between commies and Christians,
Yeah.
and you you can simplify it down to that level as
Mm,
long as you realize that all the commies don't necessarily want the immediate socialization of all business. They're
mhm,
content with using business
mhm,
and turning their sights on different other groups to
mhm,
replace the kulaks and whoever else the commies would have killed.
mhm.
But other than that, that's what's happening, and it's it's amazing to watch it, and it's amazing to watch. It's almost like I don't want to get too hippified. but almost like watching two different
Mhm,
substances come together,
mhm,
and they come, this way, and they come this way
mhm,
to some extent, and then this one pushes back on this one, and it's just it's strange to watch it at the same time as it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter as to whether I'm going to stay here because I don't want to deal with what happens if MAGA loses and uh, the uniparty backlash comes.
mhm.
I'd rather not live through that. I'd rather go
Yeah,
someplace
yeah,
else
yeah,
because I don't know how MAGA would come back from it. I'm not saying
yeah,
that's going to happen.
yeah,
Actually, MAGA is going to be successful to a considerable extent, at least to the midterm.
yeah,
I just see longer term problems with feminism and the race problem
no.
that I think are more intractable that are going to be hard to solve.
You,
We
you,
can
you,
talk about that some other time,
you,
but
you
yeah.
know, we need to do an episode just on feminism. I mean, I'm loaded for bear, and I got stats on that and stuff like that.
Oh
Basically,
yeah.
I'll I'll, I'll give you the thumbnail as far as feminism. It's dying out. Um,
Well,
the the awfuls and the hardcore uh, younger 20 somethings, they're facing the wall, what's called.
mhm,
And dating is dead. Uh, marriage is, dying.
mhm,
Eventually what's happening is they're breeding themselves out. The conservatives, or what did Woody Allen say? Half of all success is just showing up.
yeah,
Something along those lines. Jesus said, "the
90%. Yeah,
the
yeah,
meek
it is.
shall inherit the earth." You know,
Yeah, yeah.
and I go to a church of which all the married women have anywhere from 4 to 8 children.
That's
You
good.
know,
Yeah.
and um, so you take that for what it's worth. Maybe we can do another thing on that. But I want to pick your brain about going back to Europe and the Muslim invasion. How do you think it's going to play out? Is it going to be different than in America?
I think that you're going to get two different results. Well, you could
Yeah.
get several different results because they're different countries in Europe. Um, Here, I think it's going to be held off because we don't have that many as far as the population is
Right.
concerned to begin with, and we have a wake up call just by watching the news to see what's
Right.
happening in Europe, and so our nervous system, our antibodies are going to be a lot stronger than
Right.
what's happened in Europe. Um, I don't know whether France survives.
Yeah.
Um, England probably does, but only with a nasty war
Yeah.
because they're
England's also an
they're
island too.
concentrated in the big cities, and
Hmm.
that's good because you know where to find
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And they could have a big thing and it turn into a race war.
Hmm.
It's really going to be the people against the elites, but the elites
Yeah.
are using their
Yeah.
Hessians are the Muslims,
Yeah.
and so
Hmm.
I could see England surviving the whole thing, especially with American help, because I think America would be
Yeah.
if it was Trump or if it was Vance, I think we'd be of some considerable assistance to them if that's what broke out. Even against the elites, if the wrong people were still in charge, I think we'd
Yeah.
still help
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
the people.
I mean, that's what the CIA is
France,
for. I mean, we've used the CIA to destabilize other governments and overthrow them. I mean, I could see a hard right faction of the CIA smuggling in guns to your average Tommy who lives in the Midlands and saying, "Okay, here here
don't
they
get me
are.
excited. I
There's
have
a
dreams like that. Yeah.
there's a there's Rotherham, and that's where all the Packies are. So get going." Um,
I really hope that Trump can reform both the FBI and the CIA. I don't.
yeah,
I'm sure it's far from complete now, just
yeah.
because I know the CIA had at least had to know and had to have given a green light to the Kirk um,
Oh yeah,
assassination.
yeah,
Whether they did it or whether it was the Mossad, 6-5, and you pick them.
Yeah,
Uh,
and listen, this I don't want to go further than this. I mean, because we could probably do another episode just on this. But
we probably will. Yeah.
But Tyler Robinson, I think, is a patsy.
Oh yeah.
There's just too many incongruities, and and of course we've been given so many mass murders of trannies doing it. We're primed to believe that, oh yeah, by the way, he's not a tranny, but his boyfriend is. So yeah, of course, by God, he did it because he's a sicko. And yeah, I just
That that's part of the reason it seems to me that it's almost too sloppy to be the Mossad. That's why I think it might be
yeah,
the CIA.
yeah,
But it's hard to say. It really is.
yeah.
And but I hope he does get control of these things. And you could have a real right wing CIA and a real right wing Federal Bureau of Investigation
We
at the
did it
end
one
of
time.
this, at the end of the tunnel. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm sure that's what he's shooting for. He wouldn't have done all this stuff. So
Yeah,
I have to have faith in God first of all,
yeah.
um, and what God has done. I can see in Russia,
Hmm.
and the fact that it's extending through Europe through various means,
Hmm.
and that it has come to America and seems to be gaining ground anyway.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that leaves me hopeful usually at the end of the day, but
Hmm.
sometimes I get, what do you think's going to happen in Europe,
Well,
George?
you know, I've been studying a lot of Carl Jung, and he believed in the archetypes, and all these things.
Mhm.
And there is such a thing when you realize the fact that the European peoples are very hard to dominate.
Mm,
There is something innate in us, which I've heard called the Odin switch, and Odin being the father of the gods
right.
of the Norse pantheon.
Yeah.
And when it's when it's flipped, that's when the European races or nations go wild, and
Mm,
either against each other or their minority populations.
mm,
Um, there's they say the difference between the left and the right is they view terror this way. In among the left, terror is a dial. They just dial it up and then they dial
mm.
it back. With the right, it's just a switch.
Yeah.
And and although the soification of the European male is more intense than the soification of the American male,
Mm,
that only goes so far. And I
mm,
can see the indigenous populations of Europe just just rising
mm,
up. I see it more in the Mediterranean because
mhm,
the Greeks, for instance, we Greeks have a very significant self-understanding or identity. You see that
mhm,
among the Spaniards as well. I mean, it was
mm,
hard earned for them, the Reconquista.
mhm,
Um, so it it could start in one country and then the other ones will take up the shield as well,
mm.
especially if things just keep on getting bad economically
Yeah.
and it's just so I'm
Yeah.
hopeful. I mean, this is not something I want to see. I think self-deportation and deportation, it would be good. I know in Sweden they're starting to pay Somalis and others to leave, and they are,
Yeah.
you know.
It's a good idea.
Um, so I don't know. We'll
Flush the
see.
cash might as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Heasing
Well,
had said, "War is father to us all." I think it's just endemic. We're gonna have a war. It's gonna be either a civilizational war. I'll I'll just leave it at that. As far as Europe is
well,
concerned, as far as America is concerned, it's going to be the liberals who are going to be on the white liberals who are going to be the victims
Yeah.
if it comes to that,
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
because they're the authors of all our troubles.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah.
Um, White liberals have done immeasurable. White people, Caucasians,
Uh,
Europeans, have done a tremendous amount for the world, for humanity.
yeah.
At some point, it turned bad in some people's minds, in the liberal mind,
Uh,
and they just went off the deep end,
yeah.
and they can't escape their own
Uh,
ideology.
uh,
Uh, and it's sick, and it's gonna destroy them, and they can almost see that it's gonna destroy them. Everybody else can see it's gonna destroy them,
well,
but they can't
yeah,
escape it.
and and let's not forget, your average liberal 100 years ago, up until Kennedy was shot, was a normal human being who had a business or did something, invented something. I mean, like Henry Wallace, who was the vice president of FDR, extreme liberal,
Mhm,
but he was an accomplished man. Same thing with Woodrow Wilson. I mean, Williams
mhm,
Jennings Bryan. Harry Truman was a failed businessman, but he was a pretty good judge and all that. John F.
mhm,
Kennedy was a war hero. He had a boat shot out from
mhm.
under him. Uh,
Yeah,
the Since then, because of the Vietnam War and the Weather Underground and all these bombings that happened, and there were like hundreds of bombings. They said like one every 5 days or something like that, or five a
mhm,
day.
mhm.
Eventually, the establishment made peace with them. Said, we're not going to hunt you down, execute you, put you in a gulag, whatever else. Just stop doing this and just go teach at the at at the university. So
Yeah,
William Mears and Bernardine Dorn and all these people went into the university, and they
Angela Davis.
ruined generations of people. But
Yeah,
they they um they they weren't persecuted. The problem was they experienced no consequences. And the
yeah,
students they taught likewise have never experienced consequences for their actions. I
yeah.
mean, I don't know if you saw Katie Porter, that the woman running for governor of California. Did you see that
Oh, yeah,
viral?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
this is a
she's
woman
nuts.
who, yeah, well, she's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah,
But she has never been told no. And that's
yeah,
true of a lot of the younger college kids. And then when they get out and they find out that basket weaving will not get them a job at a Fortune 400 company, and they're going to be stuck at Starbucks being a barista for 20 years and never paying off their student loan,
mm,
and it's because they were never challenged, they were ruined, and they've lived consequence-free lives for a long
yeah,
time. So that's your typical liberal right there.
yeah.
Whereas your typical
That's
conservative
an excellent
went and got a
analysis,
job,
George.
learned a
That's
trade,
excellent.
went to med school, went to law school, went to
Yeah,
pharmacy school, did raised a family.
yeah.
And anyway,
That's an excellent, analysis, George. That
thank you.
that
I appreciate that.
you got it right down.
It's been going on in my head for a while there. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, do you think we've covered the subject for the time
I
being?
think so. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, then, if you all enjoyed this program, if you hit like and subscribe, and we will see you next time at Hegemonix.
Ciao.